The town of Willow Creek was peaceful, a place where time seemed to move a little slower, and the worries of the world felt far away. It was small and nestled between rolling green hills, where the air was always fresh and the skies were a brilliant blue. Above it all stood a clock tower, tall and proud, its silhouette a familiar sight against the horizon, watching over the town like a silent guardian. The Clockmaker lived there, a man of mystery and quiet wisdom, who spent his days surrounded by the gentle ticking of countless clocks. He was known only as Old Timothy to the townsfolk, a figure both respected and revered, yet shrouded in an air of enigma. Old Timothy was famous for his clocks, each one a testament to his unparalleled craftsmanship and dedication. They weren't just any clocks, they were intricate masterpieces, each tick and tock a tiny symphony of precision and artistry. They were intricate masterpieces, each tick and tock a tiny symphony, a harmonious blend of gears and springs that seemed almost magical. But the most special clock of all was the one in the tower, a grand timepiece that stood as the heart of Willow Creek. Its face was a shimmering silver, and its hands seemed to move with a life of their own, marking the passage of time with an almost ethereal grace. People said the tower clock held a secret, a mystery that had been whispered about for generations. They whispered that it could control time itself, that its mechanisms held the power to alter the very fabric of reality. But these were just stories, told to wide-eyed children in hushed tones, tales of wonder and magic that seemed too fantastical to be true, or so everyone thought. One crisp autumn afternoon, a young boy named Eli climbed the winding stairs of the clock tower, his heart pounding with excitement and curiosity. He was Old Timothy's apprentice, eager to learn the secrets of time, to uncover the mysteries that lay hidden within the tower's ancient walls. Little did he know, the stories were about to become his reality, and the secrets of the clock tower would soon be revealed to him in ways he could never have imagined. Eli was a curious boy, always asking questions. His eyes sparkled with wonder every time he stepped into Old Timothy's workshop. It was a place of magic, filled with gears, springs, and the sweet smell of polished wood. One day, Old Timothy was away. Eli, left alone in the workshop, found himself drawn to the heart of the tower clock. It was a mesmerizing sphere of crystal, pulsing with an inner light.
Wow, what is this? It's so beautiful.
As he reached out to touch it, the clock's hands began to spin wildly. The air crackled with energy. The room spun and Eli felt a lurch in his stomach. When he opened his eyes, he knew something was terribly wrong. The familiar sounds of Willow Creek were gone, replaced by an eerie silence. Eli rushed out of the tower, his heart pounding in his chest. The ancient clock had struck midnight and something inexplicable had happened. He could feel it in the air, a strange electric tension that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. He gasped at the sight before him, his breath catching in his throat. The familiar streets of Willow Creek had vanished, replaced by something out of a history book. The town of Willow Creek was gone, replaced by a scene from centuries past. The modern buildings had dissolved into thin air, leaving behind an eerie, silent village. In its place was a strange and unfamiliar village, with cobblestone streets and thatched roof cottages. It was as if he had stepped into another world, one that existed long before his time. Wooden carts creaked down muddy streets lit by flickering gaslights. The air was thick with the smell of burning wood and the distant sound of horse hooves clattering on stone. People in old-fashioned clothes stared at him with suspicion, their eyes narrowing as they whispered among themselves. Eli felt like an intruder in this alien world.
What happened? Where am I? His voice trembled as he spoke, the words barely escaping his lips.
Fear gripped Eli's heart, a cold, unrelenting fear that made his hands shake. He had no idea how he had ended up here, or how he was going to get back. He had traveled back in time. The realization hit him like a tidal wave, overwhelming and terrifying. The clock's power was real and he had somehow activated it. The clock's power was real and he had accidentally unleashed it. Desperation clawed at him as he clutched the antique clock, its hands still glowing with an otherworldly light. He needed to fix this, to bring Willow Creek back. He couldn't leave things like this, couldn't abandon his home and everyone he knew to this twisted fate. As the sun began to set, casting long, eerie shadows across the unfamiliar village, Eli felt a sense of urgency. Time was running out and he needed to act fast. Eli knew he couldn't panic. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He had to think clearly, to find a way to repair the timeline. He had to find a way to repair the timeline, to set things right. His mind raced with possibilities, each one more daunting than the last. His gaze fell on the clock tower, a beacon of hope in this strange new past. It stood tall against the dusky sky, its presence both comforting and foreboding. Eli knew that the key to fixing everything lay within that tower. Eli spent days exploring the village, searching for clues. The village seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for someone to uncover its secrets. Every corner, every cobblestone seemed to whisper stories of a time long past. He learned it was Willow Creek, but from 100 years ago. The realization sent shivers down his spine. How could this be? The village was a living, breathing relic of a bygone era preserved in time. He heard stories of a brilliant clockmaker who lived in the tower, a man haunted by a tragic past. The villagers spoke of him with a mix of reverence and sorrow, their voices tinged with the weight of old memories. Could this be about old Timothy? The name echoed in Eli's mind, stirring a sense of familiarity. He had read about Timothy in old journals, but the stories never seemed real until now.
Could it really be him? What happened to him? The questions swirled in Eli's mind, each one more pressing than the last. He needed answers, and he needed them now.
One evening, an old woman with kind eyes beckoned Eli closer. Her presence was comforting, like a warm blanket on a cold night. She seemed to hold the key to the mysteries that plagued him. She spoke of the clockmaker's sorrow, his desperate attempt to turn back time. Her words painted a vivid picture of a man consumed by regret, willing to do anything to change the past. She whispered of a hidden inscription on the clock's crystal heart, a key to controlling its power. The revelation was both astonishing and terrifying. Could such a thing truly exist?
Young one, the clockmaker's secret lies in an inscription on the crystal heart. Her voice was gentle but firm, carrying the weight of generations of knowledge. Find it, and you may be able to set things right. The words hung in the air, a beacon of hope in the darkness.
Hope flickered in Eli's chest. For the first time, he felt a glimmer of possibility. Maybe, just maybe, he could make a difference. If he could find this inscription, maybe he could fix everything. The thought was both exhilarating and daunting. The weight of the task ahead pressed down on him, but he was determined. He rushed back to the clock tower, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. He had to try. The fate of Willow Creek, and perhaps his own, depended on it. The journey was far from over, but Eli was ready to face whatever lay ahead. Back in the workshop, Eli carefully studied the crystal heart.
It pulses faintly, as if echoing with the clockmaker's heartbeat.
Then he saw it, a tiny inscription barely visible to the naked eye.
It reads, "Time heals all wounds, but some scars run too deep."
Suddenly, a wave of sadness and longing washed over Eli. He understood.
The old clockmaker, heartbroken over losing someone he loved, had poured his grief into the clock, trying to reclaim a moment lost forever.
Eli realized the clock wasn't just a machine, it was a vessel of love and loss.
I knew then that I couldn't just fix the timeline. I had to understand the clockmaker's pain to help him find peace. Section 6. The Cogs of Change. Driven by a newfound purpose, I immersed myself in the clockmaker's journals. I learned of his love for a woman named Claire, a love cut short by a tragic accident. The clockmaker, in his grief, had tried to turn back time to save her. Night after night, I studied the clock's intricate mechanisms, comparing them to the clockmaker's frantic notes. I realized the clock wasn't just turning back time, it was trapping the town in a loop, replaying the same day over and over. I knew I had to break the cycle, to allow time to move forward. I had to show the clockmaker that even in the face of loss, life goes on, and new moments of joy can be found. Section 7. Time's Healing Hands. An idea sparked in my mind. I worked tirelessly, fueled by determination and a growing understanding of the clockmaker's heartache. I carefully adjusted the clock's gears, changing the configuration of its intricate mechanism. I wanted to show the clockmaker the passage of time, not as a cruel thief, but as a gentle healer. I wanted him to see that while some wounds leave scars, they also make us who we are. As the final gear clicked into place, the clock tower hummed with a new energy. It was no longer a desperate plea to rewind time, but a gentle nudge to let go and move forward. Section 8. The Clockmaker's Legacy. Light filled the room. I closed my eyes against the sudden brightness. When I opened them, I was back in old Timothy's workshop. The familiar tick-tock of the clock was a comforting melody. I rushed to the window. Below, Willow Creek bustled with life. It was back to normal.
Eli, my boy, I felt the shift in the clock's energy, the release of my own pain. I finally understand that time, like love, cannot be controlled, only cherished.
Though relieved, I felt a pang of sadness for the Clockmaker's loss. I had learned that some wounds never truly heal, but time teaches us to carry them with grace. Section 9. A moment held dear. Years later, I became the new clockmaker of Willow Creek. I kept the tower clock running, not to control time, but to honor its flow. I remembered the lessons learned, that time is precious, that love transcends loss, and that the past, though gone, shapes who we are. Sometimes when the town slept peacefully below, I would climb the tower. I would gaze at the clock's crystal heart, now pulsing with a gentle, steady rhythm. It was a reminder that even in the face of life's inevitable changes, some moments are timeless, held forever in the beating heart of memory.